Welcome to Kathy's Eclectic Garden. I'm Kathy and I garden in zones 5B, 6A in Northwest Ohio. Today we're going to talk about whorled milkweed. But first, I want to show you my messick garden that's in full bloom. Here in my messick garden, the plant in the front that's light pink is Joe Pye weed. And there's some more back further in the garden, but this here in the front is about 3 to 4 feet tall. And behind that and to the right is wild senna, and the wild senna is 5, almost 6 feet tall. And in the very back is my cup plant, and my cup plant is at least 9 and probably pushing 10 feet tall. And here on the back side of the messick garden we have Rattlesnake Master here in the front. This is about 4.5 to 5 feet tall. And behind that, the purple plant behind it is tall ironweed, and it is 5 to 6 feet tall. We'll be right back. Now let's go back and look at the whorled milkweed. Now we're in the garden where I've got my whorled milkweed planted, and this is whorled milkweed right here. And I had another one here where Golden Alexander is coming up now that I purchased from Riverview Natives in Spencerville, Indiana, from my good friend Martha. And one of them died, but it must have sent out rhizomes, because now I've got probably a dozen whorled milkweed plants. And whorled milkweed is Asclepias verticulata, and it's hardy in zones 4 to 9. So now we've got this little group right here, and whorled milkweed likes full to part sun. It blooms in late spring, summer, or fall. We'll talk about blooming here in just a minute. It can get 1 to 3 feet high, and it spreads 1 to 2 feet. Now, this is the 3rd year for it. In the first year, I lost 1 plant, and the second year, I gained about 3. And one of them was way away from the other one. I couldn't believe it had spread that far, so it must have really sent out some roots. Now, this is the tallest plant that I've gotten so far. This plant dies back to the ground in the winter. It seems to take it quite a while to grow in the spring, so I've never had one bloom in the spring. In fact, this year is the first year I've had one bloom at all. And this is the end of July, and you can see the flowers here on the top. They're just little tiny clusters of white flowers. This plant has low water maintenance. I don't do anything to it. I mean, I'm not going to trim it because it's not big enough to trim. But I like the ferny type foliage on it. It's different than any of the other milkweeds I have, and I've got, I think 6 or 7 milkweeds right now in my yard. If you purchase seeds for this plant, you want to plant them in the fall. But they won't flower at least until the 2nd year, and it's taken mine 3 years to flower. So be patient. They will eventually flower. They can self-seed, and as I've already mentioned, they spread by rhizomes, because all of mine have spread by rhizome. Because this is the first year I've had flowers, so I haven't had any seeds. They bloom later in the year than most of the milkweeds, and I can attest to that because all of my other milkweeds have bloomed and have started putting on seed pods. Now, I do have a couple of swamp milkweeds that are blooming for a second time, but it's just very sparsely that I'm getting the second bloom. The whorled milkweed is drought tolerant. Once it's established, it prefers open areas. It can be bothered by milkweed beetles, milkweed leaf beetles, and aphids. I do have to say that I have had no aphid problems so far this year, and that is highly unusual. My swamp milkweed is usually covered in aphids. We have seen some milkweed beetles, but not nearly as many as we've seen in the past, so I'm not sure what's going on this year, but I'm liking it. So this is Whorled milkweed. If you can get your hands on some, I would encourage you to plant it. It's a beautiful little plant once you get it going. Just be patient and it will eventually flower for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.